Okay, I'm working on a 2014 Hyundai Sonata. I'll get this so you can see the belt spinning. So this has a really weird issue where occasionally, once the engine is good and warm like it is now, you rev it and it seizes. It won't crank. Pulls about 800 amps through the starter while trying to turn the engine, so that proves that the engine is not, that the starter can't turn whatever it's trying to turn. You can hear that rattle, maybe. Now the engine is seized. We're going to pull the spark plugs, drop the serpentine belt, and then measure the turning torque of the engine. So put you back up here. We're going to go ahead and pull those spark plugs. It's all four very hot coils. Yeah, so this is a really unique case. I suspect one of the connecting rod bearings is seizing the engine only when warm, but it creates quite a bit of drag. Even on a cold relative compression test using starter amperage or current flow, it takes almost 800 amps to get the engine turning, and then pretty close to 300 or more to keep it turning. Yesterday, I had a little bit of time. We seized up the engine and just pulled the spark plugs. I didn't have enough time to do everything. So even with just the spark plugs out, it was taking almost 300 amps to get this done, just to turn the engine, which is pretty incredible. Alright, and that is the serpentine belt. I'll go ahead and drop that belt all the way off. So spark plugs are out, serpentine belt is out. Let's try to crank that engine quick. You hear how sick that sounds. So we're going to measure the turning torque of that engine now. So we are going up in the air. Things off the top. So that's what we're assuming is going on. These Hyundai Kia has recalled millions of these engines for a season issue. And I've seen a lot of them just hard failures, but this will be the first one I've seen that would seize up and come back out of it once it cools down. And it really doesn't have to cool down all that much, which is kind of weird. But it sure seems like there's something making this engine not want to turn. So right now I'm reading about 52 foot-pounds to turn this engine. Let's see if we can get you a shot here of just the well, that's a significant amount of force to turn this engine. About 52 to turn it. And it's got like a grabby feeling when you're turning it too. It's not nice and smooth. There it got smoother. There it gets a little less smooth. That engine should turn a lot easier than that. But pretty incredible. So now what we're going to do, we're not going to run it for very long with the belt off of it. So I don't want to discharge the battery or run the voltage low on the control modules. But we're going to run this and see if it seizes up with nothing attached. So we're going to put the spark plugs back in. Here you can't really see up in there very well. But let's see if I can get you up behind the tire. That's the AC compressor. Spins nice. That pulley spins nice. The alternator spins real nice. Water pump spins real nice. There's a tensioner up here. Spins real nice. So everything spins. So let's set this back down and we'll check out what happens when we put the spark plugs back in and run it for a few seconds, see if we can get her to lock up again. So yeah, the water pump's driven by the serpentine belt, so we're only going to run this engine for just a minute or so. The main goal is just to make sure the fault is in the engine. You know, anytime you have something like this where it seems like the starter has to work extra hard to turn the engine, and I think 60 foot-pounds is a bit extreme to turn an engine that, you know, I haven't done any real engine teardowns in a long time, but, you know, with the spark plugs out, other than dealing with valve springs, you know, you can basically turn these things by hand. So 60 foot-pounds is not by hand. I don't think I can grab that and turn it at all. There's the other idler up here. There's that idler there. So everything spins nice. So we're going to go ahead and throw the spark plugs back in and check her out. I will torque these spark plugs to spec once the engine cools down, but while it's warm, we're just going to snug them up a little bit. I didn't look up the spec on the spark plugs, but a lot of these are like 15 to 20 foot-pounds, so I'm just going to snug them up to about 10 foot-pounds, and then once the engine cools down, I'll go back through and torque these to spec. The chances are this is going to go to a Hyundai dealer and get a new engine. And the cool thing is we already verified with the dealer, if that's the case, this 9-year-old car will get a new engine at the cost of diagnostics to the customer, which is really cool. I mean, kinda. If they just built the damn things right, customers wouldn't have to be inconvenienced, but it is what it is. I'm just here to fix them. You notice I like this gun. It locks when it's not getting the trigger pulled, or with the rocker switch. I can just run it backwards, make sure I'm not going to cross it, thread anything, and then run everything down and then torque it right with the tool. Alright, so it's back together enough to run. Belt is still off. We're going to start this up and see yeah, and that thing is not turning that fast. So, locked up tight, plugs are all dry, there's nothing in the cylinders causing this problem. It is basically a stuck engine. So there's a bearing inside, seized, stuck. Now there could be something on the transmission side, but really not very likely, especially with all the known causes on these engines. So this is a 2.4 liter, but I know there's quite a few of these engines that got a whole bunch of extended coverage. So if you have any trouble with these Kias or Hyundais, definitely check into that, so you're not paying for something that's really the manufacturer's responsibility due to poor manufacturing. But oh well. Anyway, a pretty neat case study anyway. This is, like I said, this is the first one I've seen like this. And this thing will cool down, and then it'll start and run. See? Now it's running. And you know, we did all the amperage checks and everything. I could have the scope hooked up and show you all of that, but you know, I already did all that. So just to save the headache, you'll have to trust me that when this thing's dead cold and cranks over and runs, a relative compression test still shows that it takes a whole lot of effort to make that thing turn, and I can prove that with the torque wrench. And then when it locks up, we pull the belt, pull the spark plugs. We know it's a absolutely 100% mechanical issue. But let's play with fire one more time. See if we can't make it lock up again. That thing is stuck. Very interesting, very neat case. It's not very often you get to see what's called a soft seize. Definitely unique, but every once in a while you get to see something cool. So I'm happy with it. The customer's not, but like I said, this is going to go to Hyundai and get a new engine for free. The customer will probably be tickled at that. So just a really weird one. But this is actually stalled going down the road is the original complaint. And the customer had tried a few things themselves and didn't make any progress. So, but yeah, when it's locked like this, you can see with the amp clamp on a scope that starter is pulling about 800 amps to try to turn this engine. So, but anyway, thanks for watching. I hope this helps somebody if you run into something like this. Otherwise, what a neat case.